In today's episode, we have a digital colossus, one who has traversed the world of information technology and today is globally recognized and certified. Our guest is a member of the Forbes Technology Council. He is a visiting fellow of the University of South Wales. He is a cybersecurity expert and the CEO founder of Digital Footprints. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, join me welcome Dr. Robinson Tombari Sibe. Hello viewers, welcome. Today we have on set, like I told you, the elegant, dynamic, professional, astute IT, globally recognized personality, Dr. Robinson Sibe. Welcome on set, sir.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
How are you doing?
Good. Always good.
I have actually been waiting for this moment for quite a while. I think since last year we've been trying to have this schedule, to have you on set. But then you're quite a very busy person, and we're pleased, we're proud to have you today. But then our guests will be wondering, this man with this wow kind of CV, let them get to know you, without what we have said, let them get to know you up close and personal.
Thank you very much. Very delighted to be here. We've known ourselves for a very long time now, so it's always a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
In terms of who I am just a humble guy from here. My name is Tombari Sibe, as you stated. I'm from Rivers State. I'm from Bodo City in Gokana, Gokana local government area of Rivers State. I had my primary education in State School 1, Bori. As a matter of fact, my dad was the principal, so I traversed a lot of the communities, particularly in Ogoni Axis, in the early years of my education. So I wasn't privileged to attend a nursery school. I don't know if you attended, maybe the seashell people and all that. We didn't do that. There was no nursery school in the places I grew up, and my dad wasn't the kind of man that would allow the kids stay at home. So I had no memory of my first year or my first day in school because I was too young to comprehend my environment. So I just saw myself going to school, and I had to repeat primary one a couple of times until I got to the, the right age to be promoted. So
was there a barrier?
I don't know. My dad wouldn't let me, because I recall at least once I passed. There are times I don't think I had results because I was just tagging along, and all that. So, but when I was in the proper primary one, that was the era where they were using slates to write. And I was, I think, the only kid in class who was writing, with the book, because I'd stayed on that class for so many years, and so I had mastery of writing at the time. So I was slightly ahead of my peers, So I finished from there, and I went to Baptist High School. Baptist, some sort of factory, and like a laundry too, a factory in the sense that it shaped who we are today, made very fantastic humans out there. One of the guests on this studio, in fact, the immediate past president of Baptist High School Old Boys Association, great people that has passed through the school. So, but we also had the ugly too. That's why I say it's like a laundry. So even the bad, all kinds of people were there. If you're also to write the history of some of the cultism and the bad side of the town, we met some of those folks back then in school. So, it kind of mixed an irony of some sort that you had such brilliance, and then at the same time, you had people who were not, on the good side of the law.
Society.
So, but it was that place that shaped the man I am today. The fact that you're a calm person, but you can negotiate with the street. You can survive in the streets, anywhere, because you were brought up to be tough, and you were brought up, to also reflect the motto of the school, which is for God and truth. So it was, I think, arguably the most influential institution behind the man that is seated here today. So in a nutshell, let me stop at this point. This is basically the part most persons don't know. I was born into a family of 6. Yeah, I lost 2. Yeah, but I'm an only son from my mom. You know, we have five girls and an only son. So imagine what sending your only son to Baptist High School at the time would mean. They go kill him. You know,
the only Charlie among the angels, going to such renowned school for everything, you know, good and bad.
Good and bad. We went, and you know, you can't have been to Baptist without going through all of this. You know, I had my days in the waterfront. I had my days in the forbidden cinemas, in the zinc houses, and the waterfront. I had my days, you know, eating my transport and trekking home. I had my days trapped in riots, you know. Wow. So there's no way you go to Baptist, and even if you're in the SU, you must have, you know, in quote, passed through Kura, you know, the Kura life.
Yeah. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is indeed an interesting revelation that we're hearing today about Dr. Robinson Sibe. Dr. Robinson Sibe, let me... you have quite an intimidating profile for a young middle-aged man. Now, I don't mind the gray adornment that you have on, but then, how? This young man is the co-founder. He is the CEO and lead forensic examiner of Digital Footprints Nigeria Limited. Dr. Sibe, you are a cybersecurity digital forensic expert. You have over 20 years experience managing IT projects and teams. You are an official member of the Forbes Technology Council. You are also a visiting fellow of the University of South Wales and Doctoral Dissertation Chair at Capital City University, Maryland, USA. You have a PhD in information technology, particularly in the field of digital forensics, and a master's degree in digital forensics. What are you not in the digital forensic space?
I'm not a thief.
Well, wow, this is indeed intimidating. What spurred you on to become all of this?
I was a curious kid right from when I was young, and I always wanted to figure things out. Like I said, I was an only son, so I had limited playmates, you know, so most of the time, you know, and we didn't used to go out that much. I was on my own trying to figure out things, you know. So I remember very vividly when the guy that fixes the generator comes, I was always very excited. So I'll go stay with him. I'll start asking him questions. So I knew about spark plug, carburetor, you know, the guy that also fixes the electronics, if the TV is bad. I'd always go ask him questions, even as a young 5-6-year-old kid. You know, so I was always that kind of kid that wanted to fix things, you know. So very early in life, I realized that I don't want to study that discipline that depend on some institution to set up shop for me. I always wanted something that, worst case, if there's no job, I can fix things myself. So like every kid, you wanted to be a medical doctor. I threw that dream before I was in primary 3. I said, okay, I want to be a petrochemical engineer. And I said, oh, yeah, that sounds big, but it doesn't look very hands-on. So how am I going to start up stuff if I don't have a job, you know? So I kept evolving the things I wanted to do until I ended up, you know, in computer engineering, which is my first degree, because I felt that I could always set up shop. I could always design things on my own. So basically, a major drive has been how to fix things myself, how to design things myself, how to be in charge of my space and in charge of my career, and not necessarily being, you know, burdened by the macroeconomics around me. You know, so that's how I started, and you know, in computer engineering. But then, as you know, IT is a big discipline, and it evolves. It's always evolving. So I also am someone who I like hard things. I like the thing the people say is hard. So I believe that I could do anything. I always have that belief. It's not like I can't do everything, but I believe that if I put my heart to anything, I can do it. So I'm not from a very privileged society.
Yeah.
We're not a big society. We are minorities, and minorities in Nigeria for that matter. So what that means is that is either you strategize on how to survive, or you just relax and then the economy hits hard on you. So at every given time, I've always been attracted to emerging technologies, what they call the blue ocean strategy of, going in uncharted waters. The things that too moved me. I always wanted that thing that not many persons were doing, and at the same time, things that were solving very critical problems. So as a Nigerian, one of the critical problems, one is unemployment, and unemployment is at the heart of a lot of the vices we have, from robbery to all sorts. And one of the key ingredients or factors behind one particular vice, which also led me into digital forensics, is the cybercrime issue. A lot of our youths are getting into cybercrime because of unemployment, and it's not just about what I think. That's what a study which I did and which a lot of other persons did, all pointed out to socioeconomic reasons, top of which was unemployment. So as a Nigerian who travels pretty often, and every time you travel, you get this treatment, and this look like, oh, you're a Nigerian, you're a cyber criminal and all that. I felt I needed to, study this thing and be on the other side of things, on those who would help, prevent things like that. So basically that's what spurred my interest. Over the years, I didn't start as a cybercrime investigator, which on the surface of it, from a civilian point of view, not from the law enforcement point of view. I started out as a computer engineer. I've had my days as a programmer, as a system administrator, as a geographic information system analyst. So I've had my days, in different years. So, but currently we do cybersecurity and digital forensics, and I'm proud to have started up what I believe is the first properly structured digital forensic laboratory in Nigeria today.
Wow, that brings me to one very important question regarding your personality. You have delivered several keynote papers and expert opinion on the topic of cybersecurity globally. How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel any sort of sense of accomplishment?
No, I'm the son of a teacher, so
wow.
it comes to me. Even those who work with me know I teach every day. I teach. My children know me as a teacher. I teach them, even when I'm trying to talk to them. I end up teaching. My staff. So if you can't be questioned, if you can't be put to task, if you are not someone who loves to be taught, you can't work with me, because I literally teach them. And I didn't make it something about me. I made it a culture. So even if I'm not there, they now teach themselves. So there are at least 2 trainings in my office every week, at least 2. One technical and one general training on leadership, on office ethics, on anything other than the technical. Then at least one technical training every week, whether I'm there or I'm not there. Even this week I won't be there, but the training will go on. Yeah, so I try to institutionalize that. So for me, when I go out, I still see it as me talking, me doing my usual thing. So it doesn't come to me like an accomplishment. As a matter of fact, I don't keep track of all of them. There are, if you ask me now to list every single training I do, the only thing that will help me now is at least I try to share them on social media. That's the only thing that can help me to go back, to keep track. Otherwise, I don't keep track of them. Apart from maybe the ones that, I'm happy this was done, here and there, yes. Like the one I did the last time at the Nigeria Society of Engineers annual conference, because that's my profession, that's a national, thing. And the fact that I was even called to do it twice, so somehow I do things like that I won't forget,
Wow. Now, although I've known you for quite a very long time, but every time you come across, your personality is something that is always very admirable. You're soft-spoken, of course, a very handsome young man, and then with this great smile, as always, it's like an emblem on you. What has helped you shape you? Apart from, now you've talked about, of course, the school, Baptist molded you. But you see, you also talked about the fact that your father was a teacher. And I'm sure he instilled a lot of discipline. In all of life, what would you say have actually molded you, to who you are today?
I'd put it down to parentage. There are aspects of me, I don't know how I got them, so maybe genetic, I don't know. My father was, I saw a father, or I was privileged to have a father who was very well respected, who was a man of few words, who was also a man from a very deprived background, very poor background. And despite his very poor background of, sometimes I wonder how he even got to dream of, those things. He ended up, in good schools from the village, straight, how life was back then. He ended up in Anitonia, he didn't have relations in Port Harcourt, they were coming straight from the village. And then from there to Ahmadu Bello University, and then from Ahmadu Bello University to University of Northern Colorado in the US, also while there, and in another in LaSalle University. So he was that man who rose above all of these deprivations and didn't look at the deprivations around and all of that. So I think growing up with that kind of image of that persona around you, the fact that I was his only son, and everybody expected that you had to be like this, you had to be this great man, you had to remember whose father you are, whose son you are at every given time. So I think that shaped me. The guy didn't live long. I'm calling him guy now. I wouldn't dare if he's here. He's a disciplinarian. He never laughed too much.
And then how did you get the trait of always smiling?
My mom, my dad looked like you had to pay for every laughter. But he laughed with his guys. With his wife too, because when they're together, you hear them laugh. But when he's with us, you greet him. And he said, that's the way he answers.
In acknowledgement.
So, but that was their own era. He was a teacher who was very respected. But that template, he set that template of, at every given time, being able to remember that this is the person's son that you are, and that you are expected. There's a minimum expectation. There was a day that my teacher in primary school caught us playing in a way we shouldn't, and he singled me out of everybody and released everybody and asked me to kneel down. So after, when he was to release me, he asked me why I was singled out. I said, I don't know why. He said that because you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. I know you, I know where you're coming from. You shouldn't do that. So having this kind of experience, even as a kid, I remember also when my dad died in the middle of the term, and we had to stop schooling abruptly, and we just woke up one morning with a rude shock. Everybody was packing home to my hometown. And then just like 2 weeks or so to the exam, we were asked, we had to come back so we can write the exam. So we missed a large chunk of the term, and we wrote the exam, and I think I came second. And, one of my uncles, like, okay, let me see your results. And on checking the result, and I came second, he said, why didn't you come first? So I said, I wasn't in school most of the time. He said, what's that? He said, that's who are you? You're a Sibe. So that puts a certain weight of responsibility. So being a Sibe now is like wearing a certain rank. You're a general. You shouldn't go down. Or you're a captain. You shouldn't leave the ship. So that made me such that anywhere I find myself, remember that I am a Sibe. And I remember that that comes with a lot of responsibility. And in raising my own children, I do the same with them. You know, my son, the other time, one of my sons got, I think, 11 100s in a term, and 2 were not 100. So, but I left those 1100 and was focusing on these 2. Why did you miss this one? You know, yeah, I know children of these days, if you do it too much, you're breaking them, but at the same time, I still try to do it, you know, to instill that same culture in him, so that even if I'm not there, he knows that, look, you just have to excel. Excellence is that template of excellence, I think, is what, you know, guided us up till this moment. So even when my dad was not there, our mom carried it on and ensured that we never looked like children who didn't have a father for most of their life.
Wow, wow, wow. So being someone that is globally now well sought for, you are a regular guest, a speaker at major trainings concerning information technology, cybersecurity, forensic security, and the rest of all of that. One looking at you today would feel that, look, man, this is something, if he can do it, then I can also do it. What challenges did you go through that you overcame that also helped you to become who you are today?
The first challenge is the challenge of mentorship. So we grew up in a society where we don't look out for each other. You know, there are no mentors. But that's not what our parents went through. Our parents had a society that had layers of mentorship. So every culture, if you come to Ogoni, for instance, you find a generation like Birabi was the grandfather of the modern, you know, day Ogoni. And then he mentored a set of people. Below him, you had the Kemtejadoms and all of that. And then you had the Kobanis, and you had the Bades, and then you had the Kensariwas. All of them had that layer of, you know, both horizontal and vertical, you know, connection, mentorship, and also networking amongst themselves. We grew up at an era, perhaps maybe because of the military thing around when we grew up, you know, so we weren't looking out after each other. There was a broken chain, you know, and you looked ahead, you didn't find anybody as a mentor. I didn't find anybody. There was nobody that could say or direct me. In fact, my own case was really bad because, you know, for instance, when I was filling my JAM booklet, there was nobody to talk to me. So I literally had to figure things out, you know, and feel. And even when you left school, there's no career guidance, there's nobody to even look forward or look up to that, oh, this is this guy, I want to be this guy around us in this space. You know, there were people who were doing well, but the way the society was structured, most of them were not accessible, most of them were not in the open space. The community had broken that culture of mentorship. So that is a clear challenge, not just for me, but for every child that grew up in River State. Even till today, that challenge, in fact, it is more today. You know, so that is one big challenge. The second challenge is funding. So you have this big dream. You know, you're an entrepreneur. I know you understand what I mean. You know, you have this big dream. You want to do this. You want to set up this and all of that. Funding is always a big problem, particularly in minorities like this. And one would have expected that the system would create, you know, structures that could support, you know, people who have this innovative spirit. Fortunately, I got to know very early, you know, initially I wanted to just work because I didn't see myself as a fantastic marketer. I didn't think I could sell anything. I just wanted to work, you know. But I got into the rude, you know, the rude shock of the reality of the economy.
That you
must sell something. So I also noticed that thing I called a weakness. And what's that weakness? The weakness that I didn't like to talk. You know, I didn't like public speaking. I didn't like, you see me looking at the camera, I don't like it. That camera, I wish I shifted away. But you see, I saw that thing that I'm afraid of, I don't like talking in public. I don't like to now start to sell something. That my weakness was my strength. And what's the strength? That when I talk, you pity me that, oh, he doesn't want to talk. So you believe me, Yeah. I noticed it pretty early that I was believable. So it didn't, you don't have to speak too much. You don't have to be completely so free. You don't have to be a sanguine. You don't have to be. In fact, the world today, introverts are ruling the world. Yeah. All the tech people, they are introverts. So I tell people that my fingers type faster than my mouth. So because I see people on the street and they know me on social media and they expect the same chatterbox, the same, warm, sociable guy online in real life. So they're like, oh yeah, they run to us. They see a little laid back, partially shy person. So I looked at that weakness of mine and I converted it to an asset. So I started to learn how to sell, the ideas I had.
Wow.
And then became resilient, and which is what landed me here today. But funding is a big problem. No opportunities. The market also is not there, very strangely so, because Port Harcourt is supposed to be, the second most vibrant economy, in Nigeria. But at the same time, if you're an entrepreneur in Port Harcourt, you would see that it's not reflective of that. No, it's not. The thing here going, it's not reflective of that. And the inner mechanics of the way the economy is structured is such that a lot that is generated here goes out of here. It's not spent here. So, and that also dovetails and, even into the pay, the pay as you earn from the tax point of view, because people come to work here and don't live here. And, you pay tax, you pay your pay where you live, so a lot of the funds also don't live or don't end up here, so all of these structural challenges, the fact that there were no incubation, centers or systems when people like us started. I started out as a private person at 27. I set up my company at 27. It was like madness because, you had good results in school. Why don't you go work elsewhere and all of that, But here we are today. We pushed on and we kept pushing to where we are today. But it was a big problem. No incubation, no support, nobody to teach you the rudiments of business. So we made big mistakes starting up because there was nobody to guide us. And but then those mistakes also made us stronger.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Sibe. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we'll go for a short commercial break and then we'll be back when we return. Don't kill the dial.
Are you looking for a classic lodge while you're on the move? Or a place to stay when you're far from home? Or perhaps you're coming into town and you're looking for hospitable, safe and homely accommodation, one with exciting deluxe scenery? Then look no further. Treasure Court Apartments gives you a blend of comfort, luxury and class in a warm, welcoming and safe environment. It is a well-furnished apartment with world-class finishing, featured with everything that makes a home warm, friendly, cozy and leaving you with beautiful memories and moments. Treasure Apartment comes with an outdoor swimming pool, a beautiful ambience, an armed security guard, 24/7 power supply, internet access, snooker, table tennis, and so on. Located at Sam Wobo Street off Sunny Abacha Road behind House on the Rock Church in GRA Port Harcourt. For more information, visit our website at www.odibolaproperties.com. For bookings and reservations, call Gloria at 0913 8888892 or visit us at Odibola House at Inyeweli in Sirim Layout, Tombia Extension, GRA Phase 3 in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Treasure Courts Apartment, home at last.
Welcome back, guys. Remember, our guest today is Dr. Robinson Sibe, a cyber security and digital forensic expert. Dr. Sibe, now Forbes is one of the most reputable media organizations in the world, and you are an official member of the Forbes Council. What does that mean to you? And how does that affect your philosophy of life?
Basically, the Forbes Technology Council is a group of think tanks of experts in technology, basically of CIO. CIO is the Chief Information Officer. That's basically the highest ranking position for an IT person.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in an organization. So for CIOs, for CTOs, that's Chief Technology Officer. So basically that platform, you leverage that platform to share ideas and to be a thought leader, basically, share ideas and insight and leadership in your own technical area. So basically that's what being a member, that's what it does. Yeah.
So what is now your philosophy or leadership philosophy of life?
Very simple. I like to lead by example. So everything I want you to do, most of the time, if you look at me, I'm doing it. So for instance, sometimes people say, oh, but you're critical of government. And if I am critical of government, it's because I'm critical of myself. I have a single linear thing that drives me, which is excellence. So I like to radiate and reflect excellence in all that I do. And I believe that in doing that, I am going to influence those around me to behave in a certain way. I don't bully people. I don't scream at people who work with me. I don't believe I have to scream at you to be able to take instructions from me. But I believe that if I live an exemplary life, if I set, and I've also been privileged to see people or work with people like that. I'd worked with somebody who, he's the owner of the company, but he comes to work, he's the first to come to work, and he's the last to leave. That's leadership. He doesn't do that because he wants to see who came late or no. He comes because that's his own thing. He likes to come to work early. So when you're working with that kind of person, naturally you like to come to work early. So at the same time, I am not the type that would say, okay, you must come to work at this time, but I'm the type that says, you must give me these results. So if I want you to give me the results, because things have changed. If you look at the young people today, particularly the innovative and creative ones, if you bend them too much, they will break. They're very brittle.
Yeah.
So you have to evolve into a result-driven, expectation rather than saying that, oh, you must stay in this manner, or you must not wear a headset in the office, or you must not do this. No. So basically, I like to be the example. I also let the results drive or speak for itself. Yes.
Wow, lovely. And then for all this that you have achieved, especially your company being one of the most sought out for information technology companies in Nigeria, you must have a knack for identifying talent. How do you choose your talents? Does that work with you?
Fertile mind, basically. So when I was doing the first recruitment of my company, so I had the temptation to get very experienced people, which is good. You hit the ground running. But at the same time, I looked at it and I'm like, okay, this is fantastic to get these people. But when you look carefully at their career path, you see that they have one leg in Canada. So it's either they are just out of the job at the moment and they're looking for where to fit in and then use that as a launch pad or something. Of course, there may be the genuine ones out there, but it's very difficult because you must take someone that aligns with your vision, no matter how good the person is. So what I looked out for was, yes, have the basic ingredients that I need technically, so you're not going to be ground zero, but you have to have a certain basic level of technical sophistication that I need. Then, very importantly, have a fertile mind. So when we were in school, in philosophy class, our philosophy lecturer at the time, I don't know if Dr. Badi taught you, he gave us a story of how Socrates picked the wife. He said, just as a man goes to get a horse, not because the horse has all the skills that he wants, but because the horse has the skill to learn to have those skills. He has that capability to learn. So that's the same way I pick my staff. I pick people that if I look at their curve of growth, I see that beautiful point where they're going to. So my job is to nurture them. When I was assembling the team, I remember I told them that for the first year, you're going to be working for free. All you'll be doing is improving yourself. So I think at the time, most of them would feel that, okay, I'm trying to price them down in terms of salary, so I'm trying to say, okay, they won't be useful to me, but that's not what I meant. I also come from a background. I was in Guarantee Trust Bank, and I remember one of the stories we were told by the late Tayo Aderinoku, the founder, one of the founders of the bank, was that they put up the bank for a year. They had the license to open. They were there, they had gotten their staff, but they shut their doors for 1 year because they were training their staff. For a full year, they wanted their staff to live and breathe Guarantee Trust Bank, you know. So I think that I learned a bit from that, and I tried to put it into them. So for an entire year, they were basically earning salary and training themselves, you know, learning and all of that. We're doing a lot of in-house training. And today they are experts in their own rights in different areas. So yes, basically that fertile mind, you know, to learn. And if you're fortunate, it could go wrong, but if you're fortunate to get it right, most of the time they not only work with you, but they also imbibe that culture, and they have that sense of ownership, you know, because at the same, I don't like to just be like, oh, that's my boss. No. I want to be their mentor. So, you know, they're young people, you know, they obviously have dreams. They want to move ahead. They want to move to a bigger place and all that. It's natural to dream. I had those dreams too. But you have to make it difficult for them to, you know, have that dream.
By providing some sort of satisfaction.
Some satisfaction, something they have to keep looking forward to something. They have to look forward to that next, because the company actually invests in training for them. So we pay for certification for them.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
yes,
Wow.
every year. So that fertile mind, that desire to get better, I always tell them that, look, every day you wake up, you must strive to be better than how you were yesterday. So I'm not necessarily saying, oh, you're using another person to compare. No. Use yourself. It's like when I was still playing golf, you know, I was never bothered about what my partner was playing. I wanted to get better than how I fared yesterday. So if you keep getting better yourself, you'd end up leading the pack.
That's true. That's very true. So even though the society didn't so much help out in your advancements, in your learning, in your growing, you had to, you know, forge it yourself, especially through basically family influence and all that. Now that you are a made man in the IT space, how much are you giving back to society? There's an adage that I know which says that when you learn, teach, and when you get, give or share to other people. Are there any efforts you're putting in place to ensure that you make society better?
First, I'm not a made man in my career. I'm still learning, and as a matter of fact, I have not even started.
Oh, wow.
I haven't started. There's a lot. The IT field is very vast, and leadership in IT is also deeper than we think. You know, so we're still at the very surface of it. If you look at the other big guys out there, they literally control the world. You know, one person owns Facebook, and Facebook is over 4 billion or thereabouts. You're using it, you know. So we've not gone anything. In fact, we're in kindergarten, or we are still looking for admission to kindergarten. But that being said, in the little way we can, I like to give back, and I like a society where we help each other. So we're doing a lot of things. I'll start from what I'm doing in my place of work, which is digital footprints. We do support a lot of learning initiatives. We also open our doors to very young people, like I said, which in itself is like giving them opportunity. Forensics is an elitist discipline anywhere in the world.
Oh, wow.
Anywhere, US, anywhere. So it's very difficult to even have access to the tools, even if you're in the US. This is not a Nigerian thing. It's an elitist discipline. So you could have studied forensics but no access to the tools because the licenses are very expensive. In most cases, only the law enforcement agencies do have them. So we basically encourage young people to come in for internship and all of that. And one way to do that in a controlled manner was to partner with Estel, which is a World Bank-run center in National Open University of Nigeria. And we support them for free. We support them in curriculum development, in joint research, in project supervision. Personally, I teach digital forensics and incident response in that school for free.
Oh, wow.
I also supervise PhD students in cybersecurity also for free.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's one of the ways which we're doing. We're also trying to set up something which will come on stream, which would let the public know and the viewers know when that happens, where the whole idea is we want to pick people from this point where they were here, they didn't know this much, and then take them to a stage where they could literally fit in anywhere in the world, with practical skill set. So it's something we're trying to work out. That it's something that takes a lot of funding, but we're looking at the creative means which we can deploy, to make it work. I wish we had support from other organizations, the government. I wish we had that support. I'm always very sad when you do. I'm speaking here now as a Rivers person. So in the last 2 years, I've done recruitments, technical recruitments, twice or thrice now, and you don't see applications from Rivers State. And I've had cause to ask why, and my findings is that, look, they are not even there. They don't have that skill set. So we have a lot of degrees all over the place, all kinds of engineering degrees, but we do not have those skill sets. So I wish I had the support, and I wish I had the capability in terms of, the enablement, to engineer this, because it's something that Rivers State is a very talented, state. Lots of talent. I remember when we started as well, some of the things which we did, if I was probably from another part, the nation maybe would have celebrated the efforts we were doing better. So it's one of the things that it's at the heart of what I want to do, to see how we can help people from here, give them these skills, equip them, because there is a skill gap, big time skill gap. First in the continent, secondly in the country, and very pathetically in the States. So it's something that I want to try and support. I belong to a lot of organizations too. I belong to one that every year they take conferences to developing economies in Africa. They are largely from the academia in the US, and they try and support some of the doctoral and master students doing cybersecurity research and so on and so forth. So yes, in our own little way, we're also trying to help. Some of the places I go to speak, I speak to students. I do that at my cost, just to inspire them, serve as mentor to them, and so on and so forth. Also, like you read in the bio, I'm a visiting fellow of University of South Wales as well. So some of the things which we do there also are not paid for. They are basically things which we do, one, to enrich the body of knowledge, as well as provide solutions to both government and private organizations.
Wow, this is amazing. Aside your family and Baptist High School, I must give credit to them for who you are today. What persons or who can we point out to say, look, these are my role models for you?
Very strangely, I'm not one of those who have, this guy is my role model. but I have a couple of people that I pick things from, I pick, for instance, I could pick your work ethic as something I look forward to. But maybe I don't like another aspect of your life. I could pick another person's enterprising spirit. I could pick another person's, restless desire, the way he's always on the move, always trying to get better and all that. So I try to pick things from different persons. And that's also a lesson maybe to the young people. Leverage information technology. So don't say, oh yeah, I grew up from a community where there's nobody that inspires me. Yeah, you don't need people definitely, in your ecosystem physically, but you have LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Pick somebody in your field, and don't allow the parameters of your immediate ecosystem to define you or to be that standard. Look out for the best. And when I say the best, because if I was looking out for, Port Harcourt, for instance, who would I have learnt or who would I have followed his footstep that, he's a member of Forbes Technology Council, so I want to nobody. Or who would I have followed his footsteps to say, okay, he's a visiting fellow of University of South Wales? Or who would I have followed his footsteps to say, oh, he's a Doctoral Dissertation Chair at Capital Technology USA? Or who would I have followed his footsteps to say, okay, he spoke at the Illinois Institute of Technology? Nobody. So if you allow your immediate environment to define the parameters of success, you're going to be a local champion. But if you look out there and you have the internet, if you can do Facebook, you can also, why don't you switch to LinkedIn? Why don't you switch to other hard stuff, ResearchGate, if you're in the academia, there are lots of places out there that you could get mentorship from. And the good thing is that you don't necessarily need to have that personal touch. There are some that you could. I'm here, I have lots of friends I've not met. I'm here, I have one-on-one contact with OEMs and MDs of, Fortune 500 companies, and you have access to them because of LinkedIn or because of any other, serious networking tools out there.
Wow. Now let us drive this home. In this age of technology and rapid global connectivity, our dear River State of Nigeria is experiencing massive unemployment, which has negatively impacted on our youthful population. In your opinion, how can leaders leverage on these technological advancements to facilitate societal development and ensure equal opportunities for all?
Technology, like I said, is a low-hanging fruit for us in River State. We always are fixated on oil. Everybody wants the oil thing. But you see, like I always say, oil is not a labor-intensive industry. How many persons could possibly work in an oil rig? Not so many. It's all machines and then a few, persons. We're talking about a state of several millions of persons. So if you expect that oil will provide, because we're not doing the other byproducts of the oil. The refineries are not working, and even if they are working, recruitment is done from Abuja because it's a federal refinery. It's not a privately owned refinery. And even if it's privately owned, they will have a liaison office in Lagos that will do these things. I'm saying it, I'm sorry, but back then in the days in Brass LNG, it was called Brass LNG, but things were happening in Lagos. Not in Brass, So that's the deprivations which we suffer here. But that should, rather than sit and complain that, oh, this is where we are, one would expect that the leaders should look at technology as that low-hanging fruit. The good thing is that if you look at all the states, they're not trying. It's not only a River State thing, but it's the low-hanging fruit. You have a youthful population. Any state or any nation that has that youthful population easily can leverage technology to, create opportunities for the youth. If you look at why we are not employed or why people are not working, basically is that they are unemployable. There is unemployment and then there's unemployability. A lot of them don't have the skill set to fit in. And that also, the universities and the tertiary institutions here should be asked very tough questions, and not just about the people in there, but the people who own the school. The schools are owned by both the federal and the state government. So ownership in the current structure of things now, government is still funding universities. So we need to ask ourselves questions on funding, on recruitment, on equipping the schools, for them to come out. But beyond that, what is that stopgap that we are putting in place? What's that measure we are putting in place as a bridging institution to say, okay, once you leave this school, in 6 months, I can turn you into this, world-class experts that can fit into anywhere. There's a lot we can do. If we're churning out 1,000 programmers, for instance, in Port Harcourt alone, we could service the whole southern region and even West African region. If we're churning out 500 cybersecurity, if I give you the statistics of, in the US alone, there are over 700,000 on-field cybersecurity roles. They want to employ, they can't find. In the US government alone, there are over 50,000 on-field roles in cybersecurity alone, not talking of IT. In the world, there are over 3 million on-field cybersecurity roles. So even if these guys that we train can't end up here, the world is looking for them. And if they are in those places, they will send money back home. And if you look at remittances that come into this country, it's in billions of dollars annually. So even if we don't find, which is very unlikely, because the banks need them. If you look at the caseloads of cybercrime, if you check the threat intelligence figures and look at the kind of threats that the banks suffer and other institutions, not just the banks, manufacturing, in fact, any institution that has, foreign transactions, you're potentially a threat for business email compromise, for all kinds of threats. So they are looking for experts, for instance, in cybersecurity. And these things don't happen by accident. You're not just going to expect your students to organically just choose cybersecurity. Nations sit back. The way our parents, our forefathers sat back to say, okay, River State, oil and gas, okay, let's set up the first University of Science and Technology in Nigeria. It's our forebears that thought that idea. Let's set up this school. The likes of Spiv or Kilo, let us do this school that will churn out the people that will run the emerging oil and gas sector. So they didn't just set up a USC, they set up a USC that had what? Marine engineering, because of our ecosystem. They set up a university that had petrochemical engineering because of the emerging oil and gas sector. They set up a university that had a department called Agric Engineering Department because they wanted to promote agriculture in this part. Those were strategic thinking. But beyond that, what have we now done in the last 20 years? Have we now looked at the way the emerging economy and look at the gaps, okay, how things have changed. So we're no longer in that mechanized era. We're now in the information age. We're now in that age where I don't have to go to work. I can sit in my room and make money. So what am I doing? How am I equipping my citizens to be able to make money from their rooms, make money from their homes, from clusters, like we are in this studio now. Do you know this studio can take 10 persons?
Very well, yeah.
And they could be all generating 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 per day. So imagine the tax that comes from it. So because government itself always looks at it from the point of spending money to help these people, but they never look at what they will gain. And that's because they don't select the right people to help. So the people they help are people who look at it like, now my turn, make a collect,
My privilege.
Now my privilege. I go chop sand, So it's something that we need to look at holistically. I get, when I think about this thing and all the desire that we have to, make things work. Unfortunately, as a private person, there's so little, there's so much you can do.
Wow. It is indeed a sour taste in the mouth when in the abundance of plenty, very little can be seen to be achieved. River State is indeed a blessed state in all ramifications, but yet even nothing thrives but politics. And even in the politics, nothing still thrives. It's quite sad. But then we'll move on. In your opinion, how can the current leadership in Rivers State, government has changed hands. We have a new leadership. How can they inspire, mobilize people to work together to come towards a common goal and achieve the dreams or the yearnings of the state?
Yeah, just as you said, politics is over. So I expect we have this thing in River State, which we do every time, which is not good, which is that we carry that bitterness of the politicking into governance. So, and this goes to everybody, both those who now in government and those not in government. Politics is over, so it's now time to govern. It's now time for those in power to show leadership. It's now time for those who lost to support those in power, because, I mean, if you submitted yourself to a process, you should also be ready to abide by the outcome of that process. If you trusted a process enough, to contest, then you should also, live with the outcome of it. If things don't work well, you go to court and all of that, but it's now time for governance. And but from the part of those in power, if you want people to run with you in the direction you're going to, you have to let your vision, you have to lay out your vision. If we don't have visibility of your plan, we're just going to always keep looking at you to like, okay, where is it leading us to? And that is, in physics, is called a scalar quantity, which has magnitude but no direction. So we want a governance that is a vector quantity, which has both magnitude and direction. So I would expect those now in power, both at the state level and the federal level, to put their vision on the table and not make it sacrosanct. It's not your vision. I know you have a think tank, you probably sought a lot of opinion, but that your think tank is probably 10 persons or less. The state is on paper, I think more than 6 million or thereabout. 10 persons cannot possibly be smarter than 6 million, because the 10 is even part of the 6 million. So what I'm saying is ventilate this vision and then be open to criticism, constructive criticism and input, so that people can say, okay, yeah, I agree with this, but how about this other method? So that visibility has to be there. And you can't be that clear if you're not communicating. So you have to strategically communicate. I also think that one thing that's not been done very well in River State in this republic, beginning from 99, is that, coexistence or collaboration or communication with the private sector. Here, private sector is just a one-way traffic of tax. They only get to see government when the tax man comes. But you see big economies like California and all that, as busy as the California governor is, he finds time to dine with the business community, and hear their side of the story. So they must consciously try to bridge that gap and try to hear business people. Businesses are suffering. We're paying multiple taxes here and there. People who do businesses also have very unique insights. They could be your advisors for free. That day you're coming to listen to them, you'll be amazed at what somebody could say, which could even turn things around for you, because you take credit for everything you do as the governor or as the president. So I'd advocate for more interaction with the business community, listen to the business community more, so that inputs can be made, so that they can also trust. Because as an investor, if you want people to come here, they must come to see, they must see a clear blueprint, a clear direction of government, the direction of your policy thrust, where you're going to, and how they can now fit into business people are not looking to be heroes. They're not hoping to come here to solve your own problems. They are hoping to come here to make money, primarily. So they need guarantees, and that guarantees can only come from what they see and what they hear. So, in a nutshell, strategic communication.
Wow. Lastly and finally, it's been a while. You are a very busy person. You travel the world, you travel states for lectures, for speaking opportunities. You go to schools to offer free lectures to students as a way of giving back. Now you are also a husband and a father. How do you find time to balance the home and work front?
Very difficult because I'm a family man. I love my family. I love my wife, my children, and as a matter of fact, my children, they have a way of, they hold my remote, because I'm a family man. They make me laugh. They help me. I know I already have a lot of gray hair at this age, but I wonder what I would have been without them. I probably would have been worse than Wole Soyinka now in terms of gray, So I try to find time, so I shut down sometimes, I could choose that for 2 days I'm not going to go out, even on a work day. And I'm not going to see anybody. I just want to stay at home. It's not enough, I know, but we are trying. I'm also working towards early retirement. If everything goes to plan, from 50, I'll start to wind down on some of the things I do, work more remotely than some of the physical. I like to just limit my activities to doing just those things I really, really love to do, So, but for now, there's a deficit, in that space. But we're trying to close that deficit. We're trying to close it by quality time, by vacationing, and making sure you bribe them. Sometimes you bribe your children.
It's very important. I understand that.
So we bribe them once in a while.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have come to the end of this lovely interview session, and indeed a lot has been revealed for you out there as the individual, for you a youth, whether in Rivers State or in Nigeria, and also for the government. Attentively pay attention to the details that Dr. Sibe has put forward. Dr. Sibe, this interview alone would not provide all that people need. How can they connect with you outside of this interview space, like maybe your social media handles or LinkedIn profile or stuff, so that this wealth of experience can still be shared?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm also on Twitter. Unfortunately, I don't carry my handles in my head.
Oh, wow. Anyway, you write them up and then we'll then publish it for the listeners to follow.
I'm not the guy that will say is the guy at the Oga at the other top,
Well, thank you so much. It's been a lovely time. I have learned, and I'm sure the viewers have learned quite a great deal. God bless you. Thank you.